Well, going by real-world standards, it's difficult to say, since obviously this isn't the world of Five Nights at Freddy's, and I wasn't alive in the 80s when the original killings take place. However, if William did not have access to the technology that he does in the games, he would probably have done significantly less damage. Firstly, his children probably wouldn't have perished, since they both died due to animatronics that were way outside the norm. Since, you know, Baby literally scooped Elizabeth using a big claw that was hidden inside her and then kept her inside of a chamber, and Crying Child was killed when Fredbear crushed his skull, which would require an absurd amount of force which would be impossible to realistically find for an animatronic, especially in the 80s, since FNAF 4 does take place in 1983, meaning all three of his kids would be alive, potentially resulting in less of a death toll, since putting Crying Child back together ended up becoming a driving force behind why William continued to kill. Since while the missing children's incident wasn't until 1985 supposedly, Baby was designed to grab kids long before, since Elizabeth's room was empty in FNAF 4, indicating that she was already scooped by Baby, so he would have had to at least have the idea to kill before 1983. Cause you know. We still don't know why he started killing. As for how successful he would be if his kids weren't a driving force, that depends. One of the most well-known serial killers is Ted Bundy, who ended up admitting to 30 killings over the course of 4 years. I'm sure we all know the story of how he used his looks and charisma to win over various victims and society, but I feel like we can kind of compare this to William. He is in essence doing the same thing, using that Bonnie suit to win over his victims and lure them to the back room when he would then take their life. He was also able to avoid the cops despite being arrested, like we learned from the newspaper clippings in FNAF 1, because he was arrested but released due to the bodies never being found, even though animatronics were leaking mucus and blood. So needless to say, while yes he would be limited with technology, he would still be able to kill, but I guess in the old-fashioned way, which sounds absolutely horrible. However, what would the cops have done? I feel like they wouldn't have been as bad as the cops from the FNAF universe. Like, the cops in our world wouldn't have been as bad. But I mean, I don't really know. Like, the suits ended up leaking mucus and blood, and it was definitely reported to the police. Again, as we see in the newspaper clippings from FNAF 1, the parents who called it in even akin to the animatronics to reanimated carcasses. Which, I mean, does make sense given that they were possessed, but even in our world, if someone called that in, I feel like there would be an investigation. And while the animatronics wouldn't have been possessed in our world, since like I've said before, possession isn't real, but if there is an ongoing investigation or even a closed investigation where bodies were not located, and then there are things in the investigated establishment that are leaking blood, I think that calls for the case to be reopened, or at least someone to go check it out. Somehow though, they either didn't investigate or they did but didn't find a body inside the animatronic, which is highly unlikely because, you know, there would still at least be bones, so I'm pretty sure that they just didn't investigate. However, I'd like to think that in our world they would have been investigated and found the bodies, thus resulting in William being arrested, convicted, and only the original 6 victims having died. Nobody else would have died, and William would have been arrested. At least, I think he would. Obviously, I can't predict the jury, and I can't predict how the verdict would have happened, since, you know, Ted Bundy was also arrested, and he had a trial but managed to evade police for ages, so who knows at this point? There we have it, friends. How dangerous would William Afton be? Not as dangerous, hopefully, since he wouldn't have access to the same technology that he would have in his universe, and hopefully our cops would have been more competent. I'm still mad about those. What other questions should I answer, be it FNAF related or gaming related in general? Be sure you let me know down in the comments. I'm definitely thinking maybe something along the lines of why the doors don't work properly. Okay, not really, but like, you have to admit, the doors make no sense. I don't care if you say, oh, it's electromagnets. No, that's not how they work. They require electricity to actually, like, magnetize things, so it would be the opposite. If they had power, the doors would be up. So, like, my point still stands. And then everyone's like, oh, it's for safety so you don't get locked in. That room would have a window. It would have a window out back, so you could escape if there was a fire. I'm pretty sure that's required by law, that there would have to be a window there. So, Why don't the doors work? I don't know. Honestly, I can't answer that question because I would just rant the whole time and it would just be a 20-minute video of me ranting. But honestly, it feels like that's something that you guys enjoy because you're still here watching this part, at least I hope, at the very least.
Number 10, William Afton. So, who is the purple guy, you may ask? There are a few theories surrounding this, but one is that he is the man known as William Afton. William Afton is the creator and operator of Afton Robotics Incorporated, which is pretty terrifying considering that is the company that supplied Fazbear Entertainment with their animatronics. Spooky? You bet. You get to visit Afton Robotics in the FNAF game's sister location. Number 9, Elizabeth. Elizabeth Afton is the young daughter of William Afton and the sister to Michael Afton. William created Circus Baby for her, and she is a minor character in the sister location game. She wanted to play with Circus Baby, but her father told her to stay away from the animatronic due to it not being deemed safe enough yet for his daughter. However, when her dad wasn't looking during a birthday party, she snuck off to play with Circus Baby and was lured away from the other children with ice cream that Circus Baby gave her. Circus Baby killed little Elizabeth with a claw that burst forth from her chest. Unfortunately, no one could hear Elizabeth's screams for help over the loud cheering and squeals of delight coming from the other children who were excited over the other animatronics. Ooh. Number 8, Hostile Animatronics. Not only did Purple Man potentially make the animatronics if he truly is William Afton, but he was also responsible for messing with the animatronics facial recognition software at Freddy's. In FNAF 2, it is revealed that this was tampered with after William complained about the working conditions of the night shifts, and was moved to the daytime shift as a result. During this time, children went missing, and the animatronics programming was altered to make them act hostile towards employees of Freddy's. I think you see what could have happened next there. Number 7, Michael Afton. Michael Afton is William's son and Elizabeth's brother, who is also known by his nickname Eggs Benedict. In Sister Location, you play as Michael, who is revealed to be on a mission to find his sister and set her spirit free. However, Michael is tricked into entering the scooping room by Enard, who also has Elizabeth's consciousness within it. In the scooping room, you as Michael have your insides scooped out before Enard wears your skin like a suit, so that they may leave the facility and go out into the world. How lovely. It is speculated that Michael may also be the Purple Man instead of William, or maybe in addition to William? Could there be two of them? You decide. Number 6, Serial Killer. The Purple Guy has been confirmed as the murderer of at least 5 missing children throughout the games. In the first FNAF game, you discover that he was responsible for luring at least 2 children to the back room, who mysteriously then vanished. Later on in the franchise, you discover via mini-games that he also murdered a child outside of the pizzeria, and that a total of 5 children taken to the back room were killed and stuffed into animatronic suits. Number 5, Springtrap. In FNAF 3, we discover that Springtrap, the game's main antagonist, contains the corpse of William Afton. While fleeing the vengeful spirits of the 5 children that he murdered, he finds himself cornered. Quickly, he thinks to hide himself in a Spring Bonnie suit, being careful to avoid injury. Initially. However, the suit's spring locks malfunction due to water damage and sudden movements that William makes, resulting in him being sliced apart while inside the suit and crushed by its inner mechanisms. What a way to go. You can still see his remains through the tears in Springtrap's suit. Number 4, SCRAPTRAP. SCRAPTRAP is a far more frightening iteration of Springtrap. This version appears in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. The suit now appears to have even more tears and has a more withered looking appearance, missing a limb and with more tendons belonging to the corpse within it visible. Number 3, Rotting Away. Part of the reason why some think that Michael Afton could be the Purple Man is because of the color of his skin. The purple color is speculated to represent his skin rotting away following the scooping room incident in Sister Location, while Michael's consciousness lives on within. In mini-games within Ultimate Custom Night, we witness what happened to Enard and Michael after leaving the facility. We see his skin change from pale to tan to green to brown to almost like this blue and then deep purple. Number 2, Trapped in Hell. It's believed that in Custom Night, where you can customize which animatronics can come at you as you attempt to survive, you are playing as William Afton, who is now trapped in hell, with the never-ending nights that make up the individual games that you play representing William's eternal punishment for the murders that he was responsible for. Additionally, the Old Man Consequences Easter egg has been used to argue the likelihood of this claim. What do you think? Do you think that game is all about you playing as William William Afton, you're trapped in hell? Let us know in the comments. Number 1, father versus son. After Michael Afton turns purple in the minigames we previously touched on, he starts to convulse and ends up vomiting out the parts of Enard. His empty skin collapses on the ground with nothing to hold it up, and he appears to be dead. However, we then see him miraculously awaken, alive. And if you beat Golden Freddy on very hard mode in Custom Night, you get to find out what happens next in his story. That is, after he left, now with Enard inside him. A cutscene reveals Michael talking to his father in a burned down Fazbear's Fright. Michael explains that he has freed his sister, but at great cost to himself. He should be dead, but finds himself somehow still alive. And he vows that he is coming to find his father. The cutscene finishes with Springtrap popping into the frame.
And at 10, William Afton. I've said it before and I'll say it until the day this stops being an issue. Springtrap contains the body of William Afton inside. We see Purple Guy run into the Golden Spring Bonnie suit at the end of Five Nights 3, where due to the moisture in the air and William's rush, he ended up getting trapped inside thanks to the spring locks, and then he ends up collapsing, but take note, we never really see him die. He's just twitching, as he was in the trailer to that game, and while yes, Michael may be literally purple now, as his flesh decayed after Enard entered him in sister location, just because he's literally purple doesn't mean he's the killer. And just because when Michael says, I'm going to come find you at the end of sister location, and then Springtrap appears, that does not mean that Springtrap is him. We see that Michael was at sister location, and this camera movement takes place at Fazbear Fright. That was burnt down by Henry in an attempt to kill William because we all know who did it. William is inside Springtrap, not Michael. Scott even confirmed this when talking about MatPat's timeline after Ultimate Custom Night came out, saying if you're hung up on the whole Will Trap versus Mike Trap debate, watch MatPat's video. And in that video, MatPat says that it is indeed William in the suit, not Michael. There you go, please, stop. And at 9, it's a suit. While the Springtrap suit contains William's body, it is still a suit. The Golden Bonnie animatronic was a spring-lock suit, which as Phone Guide tells us is a specially designed suit that doubles as both animatronic and suit. Meaning that the spring-lock mechanics in the Golden Bonnie suit would retract like some form of even more complex Iron Man and create enough room for a person to climb inside and wear like your normal Chuck E. Cheese suit. Obviously, they weren't amazingly designed since there were some flaws. Like when they get wet, the spring locks can close easily, which is why Michael got bit in FNAF 4 and why William got snapped while in the suit. The suit also is clearly meant to be a suit since it has 5 fingers and 5 toes, which the other suits are lacking in favor of 4 fingers and 3 toes. It's even more clear when looking at the secret menu screens for FNAF 3, where on rare occasions you can see a skinless William Afton trying to get out of the suit by prying the head open. Yeah, it's weird. And at 8, secret room. All Freddy Fazbear locations had a secret room, a room that was secret because it was invisible to the animatronics, meaning that while every other room was programmed into their pathfinding, this room wasn't, and because it was never mentioned to any customer. Only employees that were around before they sealed them up. Why did they seal up these rooms? Because William Afton was stuck inside one, and if they just closed the one, that would look kinda suspicious. He was twitching in the Spring Bonnie suit. This is seen in the FNAF 3 final minigame where we see William run into the suit and then collapse. This is the safe room as indicated by the fact that the Shadow Freddy can find it, but you as an animatronic are physically unable to enter because your pathfinding doesn't allow it. William uses this to hide inside and then dismantle you as you try to find him, but he ends up unintentionally releasing the spirits of the children he killed. After he gets snapped in the suit, they fade away, but are only really put to rest when you get the good ending and give Golden Freddy the party she wanted, even if it's not enough for her to let go, which is kinda salty. I mean, like, it must have been a really bad cake. Come on, puppet. Chop chop. And at 7, no head.
So no head?
The suit doesn't have an endoskeleton head, get your mind out of the gutter. It's actually impossible for it too, since even with the crazy advanced tech that these places have, you cannot move an endoskeleton head as they are presented in the games away enough for a normal head that just barely fits inside to fit inside. This is also shown in the menu screens when William is trying to remove the Springtrap head. There is no form of robotic head present. It's his eyes and his meat. How on earth would the face operate in the Springlock suit if there was no proper head? Is it just a different form of robot or like a different arrangement of parts to get everything working more efficiently? Because if that's the case, why isn't that the case with every animatronic? If it costs the company less to manufacture, I'm sure William would be fine with it if not encourage it, since he gets his daily fill of child murder and he saves a little bit of money on the side, so might as well. Well, maybe it's more expensive, but if that's the case, I'm sure it's easier to just make a separate suit than paying extra for a specially designed suit that doubles as both animatronic and suits. Like, just make a separate one. can still kill kids in it. And at 6, no clear motive. We know that William Afton is the purple guy and that he is the Springtrap and that he is the killer, but what we don't know for sure is why. We know his boy gets chomped and then he sets out to put him back together as a robot, but he was killing kids before that even happened. What we don't know is why he's doing it. We know he sets out to create more Remnant in an effort to unlock the secrets to eternal life or something like that after he discovers Remnant, but why did he start killing kids in the first place? Did one act like Braith and just really piss him off? Was it just something he wanted to try? Is it some weird fetish? He clearly feels emotion since he felt sad after losing his son, sad enough to block out the woman Ballora represents from his life, but we don't know 100% why he killed Susie in the first place. Do you have any theories? Do you have any idea why he could have done it? Let me know in the comments because figuring this one out may be the key to solving the rest of the lore that we haven't really figured out already. And at 5, lie lures. He had to lure kids into the back room somehow, right? So dressed in the Spring Bonnie suit, he told kids all sorts of things to get them backstage. We know he told Susie, the girl who would later possess Chica, that he had her dog that was actually still alive, as indicated by the bleeding dog carcass in the Fruity Maze minigame and the whole Chica the high school year scene where she says, "I told them someone ran over his dog," or something like that.
He'll be mine by the end of the day. I just know it. I told him that someone ran over his dog in front of my house.
So we know he lies to bring kids backstage, where he ends up killing them for at this point unknown reasons, stuffs the bodies into the animatronics to hide them, and then leaves like nothing happened. It's like that meme where Pennywise is talking to Georgie and he's like, "I have brand new Pokemon cards down here," and then Georgie crawls in. Like, you know the one? For me it would be something like, "I have information about Stephen Amell returning as the Green Arrow down here." Or like I once made one that said, "I have all the other Pokemon you can't get in Sword and Shield down here," and that one would honestly get me. Pokemon is the one game that shouldn't need a DLC, okay? Forgot this was a FNAF list. And at 4, SCRAPTRAP. SCRAPTRAP is the same as SPRINGTRAP. Pink guy is purple guy, is SPRINGTRAP, is SCRAPTRAP, is William Afton. There's an entirely separate debate online that is along the lines of William is SPRINGTRAP but Michael is SCRAPTRAP or something like that, and it's just ridiculous. Why would that be true? The only Spring Bonnie suit we know of is the one that William was inside before the events of Pizzeria Simulator. For those of you who don't know, SCRAPTRAP is the version of SPRINGTRAP you find outside of the pizzeria in the back alley, like where you find Scrap Baby, Molten Freddy, and Lefty. And in accordance to paragraph 4, you bring it inside so that when the pizzeria burns at the end of the week, everyone who needed to be set free with fire, since that's the only way to destroy remnants, can be set free. SCRAPTRAP is just a further decayed version of SPRINGTRAP. It's not a separate character, it's not its own thing, it's not Michael or anyone new. It's SPRINGTRAP, it's William. They are all one and the same. And 3, Ultimate Custom Night. We can all agree at this point that Ultimate Custom Night takes place in hell, and we play as William Afton dealing with the torture we deserved for killing all those kids, but specifically the one we should not have killed. However, the confusing thing to me is that in Ultimate Custom Night, while we play as William Afton, we can also play against animatronics like SPRINGTRAP and SCRAPTRAP, which are indeed versions of us. This is confusing to me, but it makes me wonder, not about Willie being SPRINGTRAP, but about what the mechanics of this are. I suppose it could be that he did indeed create that monster, since he hid in the suit to feel more powerful when confronting the spirits, or perhaps it's because it was made of remnant. Or it could have just been that the characters available are the ones that Afton deemed his greatest failures in his mind. It's even more confusing that in the game code, SCRAPTRAP is referred to as William Afton. Scott. I know you're clarifying that SCRAPTRAP is William, but that throws a whole lot more wrenches into this than there should be for a final game in the original story. Come on. And 2, names. SPRINGTRAP has gone by many names, some being before the name was known, like when the Five Nights 3 trailer came out, some being just simple mistakes. However, they all existed, and technically you could also say that SPRINGTRAP went by all the names that the Purple Guy did, since they're the same person, but I'm going to ignore that. SPRINGTRAP has also been known as, well, SPRINGTRAP, William Afton, Michael Afton, SCRAPTRAP, Spring Bonnie, Golden Bonnie, and most interestingly, Hybrid. This name was brought on when the trailer for Five Nights 3 was released, and technically it was right. The fans assumed that Hybrid was in fact a hybrid of all the toy animatronics which he used to build himself, which could have been the inspiration for creation from The Joy of Creation. But in fact, SPRINGTRAP is just a hybrid of human and animatronic suit, not being entirely one or the other, hence why I refused to put him in the scariest animatronics list, especially since I don't really find him that scary. But Amanda put him on when she took apart, but despite that I still stand by my viewing. I stand by my reasoning, listening, okay, he's not entirely an animatronic. He's still in the suit. We never see him die. Finally, in at number 1, oldie but a goodie. This suit is one hell of an old suit, not to mention how long William was stuck inside it, but this suit dates back all the way to Fredbear's family diner, which is crazy, and even if they had this technology when that diner was prominent, that makes me even more concerned about how this thing was Iron Man levels of advanced. And while the decay on Springtrap makes that evident, it confuses me as to how it started to break down when Golden Freddy, a spring lock that is as old if not older than Spring Bonnie, seems fine in the first game. I think it's because those holes and rips were in fact made by William when he was trying to escape the suit. We see him trying to pry off the head, so it would make sense why he would have torn off bits of fur or even removed the whole foot in an effort to be set free. What do you guys think about the Springtrap decay? Let me know your thoughts down below. William Afton's still alive. And I mean alive in like a tangible sense, considering how at the moment he's sentient code. Okay, let's do this. The main question we need to ask is what counts as being alive? Because since maybe even the first game, William has been possessed by the one you should not have killed. One of his victims that ends up possessing him rather than an animatronic. So he's survived quite a lot that would have normally killed him. The Oxford Dictionary defines being alive as, quote, living, not dead. Which I mean, is fairly obvious, but I was hoping for something with a little more meat so that I could maybe find a loophole. But by the dictionary definition of alive, no, William Afton is not alive. We are vividly described his explosive death in The Man in Room 1280, the final story from the 5th Fazbear Frights book Bunny Call. But that's not why you clicked on this video. You clicked so that you could yell at me in the comments saying, of course he's alive. This video is pointless. Why did you do this? So maybe there's a way that I can get this video to 10 minutes after all. I mean, we could consider keeping the memory of someone alive being alive, since after all, Henry does his damnedest to make sure that everyone forgets what William did in the FNAF 6 ending, saying, quote, "This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of any tragedy should." But we know the memory doesn't fade, since even after the simulated pizzeria burns down, Fazbear Entertainment is still kicking and still uses what William did to make profit and even strengthen their brand. Like how hotels will make their entire brand about being haunted if enough people say that it is, like the Queen Mary or even the Farhampton Inn from How I Met Your Mother. They made a whole virtual reality game revolving around William's axe, which features an AI version of him in the form of Springtrap, not even talking about the Spirit Code version of Glitchtrap. And with the special delivery service, they are also actively shipping out recreations of Springtrap to everyone, even going so far as to make alternate versions like Toxic Springtrap, Clown Springtrap, and The Curse, which I have to admit is probably the most fitting name for the Fazbear Entertainment to give this character. But to them, it isn't a character. He's a real person, a real serial killer. That's like shipping out robotic versions of Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy to parents and kids. I say especially him because Clown Springtrap is definitely inspired by John Wayne Gacy, and you know, the similar target of kids. But I mean, like, how incredibly offensive would that be if a company did that in our world? They would be instantly canceled and even investigated to see if that was meant to be a warning or some kind of threat. But from what we know, nothing of the sort has happened to Fazbear Entertainment. And let's be honest, I don't think the Oxford Dictionary takes into account extreme agony possession as a contributing factor when talking about how someone is alive. So does being a sentient AI count as being alive? Well, it depends on the person and their personal definition of being alive. While sentient AI would probably be able to feel and go through some of the living process, such as emotion and whatnot, an AI, sentient or not, has no DNA. It has no cellular structure and doesn't undergo the process of cellular division and replication. It can't heal a wound. I mean, it can't really be damaged. Sentience is the capacity to be aware of feelings and sensations, not to actually be a living organism. Even if they have a body, like one of the animatronics from the games, those aren't alive, despite being aware that they're possessed. Possession isn't living, so no, still, William isn't alive. Now, the really tricky thing to determine is if possessing a living being, as William does with Vanny, would count as being alive. And for this, I feel like we need to look at DID. Dissociative Identity Disorder, formerly known as Multiple Personality Disorder, is a mental health condition. People with DID have 2 or more separate personalities, and these personalities control their behavior at different times. Each identity has its own personal history, traits, likes, and dislikes. dislikes. Now, I do not experience this or know anyone who does, so if I say something or I get something wrong, I apologize in advance. But this is probably the closest thing we can really get to having a real world equivalent to what is going on with Vanny and William, since there are now two personalities inside of Vanny, who each control their own behavior at different times, as we learn in the FNAF AR emails, where Vanessa will go from googling torture and how to induce compliance in human subjects to help and the migration pattern of bees in seemingly no time, literally searching up flowers one day and how far a human being can be cut in half before losing consciousness the next. This seems to be similar to how DID has been documented and described by those who live with it. I mean, I don't mean like the evil part, I mean the split part and the losing time part, at least from what I've read online, which is probably not perfectly accurate. So while these personalities aren't born from the same mind, they certainly share the same space. Both personalities though, while not having separate bodies, would be considered alive since they have DNA and experience cell division and replication, even if it's not all the time. So in that way, William is considered alive while present in Vanny's mind, but not alive as his coded form of GLitchTrap, or even if he ends up transferring his code into a robot at the end of Security Breach, as has been hinted at with the arm in the end of the gameplay trailer.